The unconventional defiance. The Archean battle fleet hung in the darkness beyond Earth's orbit, a wall of steel and energy that blotted out the stars. 5,000 warships, each one a marvel of alien engineering, stood ready to subjugate yet another world for the ever-expanding collective. High Marshal Krenvax studied the blue-green planet on his viewscreen, mandibles clicking with anticipation. Still no response from the humans, his second-in-command reported. Their communications remain open, but they've sent no military assets to counter our position. Krenvax's compound eyes narrowed. This was unusual. The Archeans had conquered 37 inhabited worlds across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. Each civilization had followed the same pattern. They detected the Archean fleet. They launched whatever military assets they possessed in a desperate counterattack, and they were methodically crushed. The pattern never varied, until now. Perhaps they're surrendering without resistance, the second suggested. Impossible, Krenvax replied. Our intelligence indicates humans are violent, unpredictable creatures. They would rather die fighting than submit. He studied the scanners again. No fleet mobilization, no defensive grid activation. What are they planning? The answer came 3 hours later. Marshal, a vessel has emerged from Earth's atmosphere. Just one. Krenvax turned to the tactical display. Show me. A small craft appeared on screen, barely 1/5 the size of even the smallest Archean corvette. Its hull was sleek, midnight black, with subtle blue energy lines pulsing along its length. It bore no visible weapons arrays, no shield generators, nothing that would mark it as a warship. Laughter rippled through the command deck. One ship. An officer chittered. They send one ship against our Armada. But Krenvax didn't laugh. Something about this felt wrong. The humans were known for their resourcefulness, their adaptability. They wouldn't send a suicide mission without purpose. Hail them, he ordered. The screen flickered, and a human female appeared. She had dark skin, close-cropped hair, and eyes that seemed to cut through Krenvax like lasers. She wore a simple gray uniform with no insignia of rank. This is Commander Terina Voss of the Earth Vessel Paradox, she said, her voice calm and measured. You're trespassing in sovereign human space. Krenvax's mandibles clicked in amusement despite his unease. You face 5,000 warships, Commander Voss. Where is your fleet? The human's expression didn't change. We didn't think a fleet was necessary. More laughter from the bridge crew, but Krenvax silenced them with a gesture. You expect me to believe one ship can stand against the might of the Archean collective. I don't expect you to believe anything, Voss replied. I expect you to witness. She reached forward, presumably touching a control panel off-screen. Marshal Krenvax, humanity has studied your conquest pattern. You're predictable. You expect civilizations to play by the established rules of galactic warfare. A small smile touched her lips. Humans don't like rules we didn't help write. Krenvax felt a chill down his carapace. What is the purpose of this communication, Commander? To give you a chance to leave. Her eyes hardened. We know about the 37 worlds you've conquered. We know about the billions who died fighting your fleets in conventional battles. We're offering you something those civilizations never did, an opportunity to walk away. Krenvax hissed in disbelief. You threaten the collective with one ship. Not a threat. A warning. Voss leaned forward. We really don't want to demonstrate what the paradox can do. Krenvax's patience evaporated. Enough of this farce. Target that vessel and... Marshal. The science officer's voice cracked with alarm. I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the human ship. Some kind of quantum field is. The paradox suddenly shimmered, its outline becoming indistinct, as if it existed in multiple places simultaneously. What you're seeing, Commander Voss explained calmly, is the paradox's quantum displacement drive activating. It's the result of humanity playing with physics in ways your scientists deemed impossible. Krenvax felt his blood run cold. Impossible was a word the collective had learned to fear. Species that did the impossible were dangerous. "Target that ship," he ordered, but before the weapons officer could comply, space itself seemed to ripple around the paradox. 3 Archean destroyers at the edge of the formation suddenly flickered. There was no explosion, no debris. One moment they existed, and the next they were simply gone, as if they had never been there at all. Panic erupted across the command deck. "Marshal, 3 vessels have vanished from our sensors." "Impossible." Krenvax slammed his claw down on his command console. "Nothing can." "Nothing conventional," Voss interrupted. "The paradox doesn't destroy your ships, Marshal. It shifts them into a state of quantum indeterminacy. They exist and don't exist simultaneously." Her smile returned, colder now. "We call it Schrödinger's warfare." Krenvax stared at the human in growing horror. The Archean collective had encountered countless weapon systems, antimatter cannons, gravitic disruptors, even artificial singularity generators. But nothing like this. Not a weapon that rewrote the basic laws of reality. "This is your final warning, Marshal," Voss continued. "The paradox is the first of its kind, but we're building more. Earth doesn't want war with the collective, but we will not be conquered." Krenvax's mind raced. His orders were absolute: subjugate Earth and add it to the collective. Failure meant disgrace. But what good were orders if his entire fleet could be erased from existence? "You're bluffing," he said finally, his voice steadier than he felt. "If you possessed such power, you would have used it already to eliminate our entire fleet." Commander Voss's expression softened slightly. "That's where you misunderstand us, Marshal. Humans don't want to exterminate your species. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We just want to be left alone." She paused. "But make no mistake, if forced to choose between your fleet and Earth's safety, I won't hesitate." As if to emphasize her point, the quantum field around the paradox expanded slightly. 5 more Archean vessels at the edge of the formation blinked out of existence. Alarms blared across the command deck. "Marshal, we've lost contact with 5 more ships." Krenvax felt the situation slipping from his control. The collective had never retreated, never abandoned a conquest. But they had never faced a weapon like this, a technology that rendered conventional military doctrine meaningless. "You have 1 hour to withdraw from Earth space," Commander Voss stated. "After that, the paradox will continue its demonstration until your fleet is gone, one way or another." The communication ended, leaving the command deck in shocked silence. Krenvax's second approached cautiously. "Marshal, this weapon. It defies all known physics. We must report this to the collective immediately." Krenvax stared at the small human vessel still hovering before his massive fleet. One ship had just changed everything. The humans hadn't played by the rules. They hadn't sent a fleet to be destroyed. They had sent a message, and written it in the language of erased reality. "Begin calculating withdrawal coordinates," he ordered, the words bitter on his tongue. "Marshal, we're retreating." His seconds sounded disbelieving. "We're regrouping," Krenvax corrected sharply. "The collective must know what we face. This isn't a conventional enemy." As the command was relayed throughout the fleet, Krenvax watched the paradox on his viewscreen. The quantum field surrounding it pulsed gently, like a predator at rest, but still alert. The human commander had been right about one thing: the Archeans were predictable. They had expected resistance, but conventional resistance. They had expected a desperate fleet throwing itself against their superior numbers. They had expected the humans to play by the established rules of warfare. They had not expected one ship to change everything. Changing the rules of war. Krenvax paced the length of his command deck, compound eyes fixed on the tactical display. 45 minutes had passed since the human ultimatum. 8 of his ships were simply gone. Not destroyed, not damaged, erased from reality itself. His officers awaited his final decision, mandibles clicking nervously in the tense silence. "Marshal," his second ventured cautiously, "we've received responses from the collective high command. They don't believe our report." Krenvax hissed in frustration. Of course they didn't. How could they comprehend what he himself barely understood? The Arxian collective had dominated interstellar warfare for centuries based on simple principles: overwhelming force, superior numbers, and technological advantage. The idea that a single human vessel could threaten an entire battle fleet was incomprehensible to the rigid collective mindset. "Show me the paradox again," he ordered. The view screen magnified the human ship. It remained in the same position, the quantum field around it pulsing like a heartbeat. Occasional ripples of blue-white energy raced across its hull. It shouldn't have been intimidating. One tiny vessel against thousands, yet every officer on the command deck watched it with dread. 15 minutes remaining until their deadline. "Marshal," the timekeeper announced. Krenvax made his decision. "Open a channel to the human vessel." Commander Voss appeared on screen almost immediately, her expression carefully neutral. "Marshal Krenvax, have you reached a decision?" "The Arxian collective does not retreat," he stated, his voice firm despite his inner conflict. "For 8 centuries, we have expanded across the stars. 37 worlds have fallen before us. We do not abandon our purpose." Voss nodded slightly. "I understand tradition, Marshal, but tradition shouldn't be a suicide pact." "We need more time," Krenvax continued, ignoring her comment. "Your technology, it defies our understanding. The collective must assess this new information." "You're stalling," Voss replied, her eyes narrowing. "Gathering data for a counterattack." Krenvax's mandibles twitched in surprise at her perception. "We seek understanding. Your quantum displacement technology changes the paradigm of interstellar conflict." For the first time, Commander Voss smiled genuinely. "That was precisely the point, Marshal. Humanity has studied your conquest patterns. When faced with superior numbers, conventional wisdom says to build more ships, develop bigger weapons. We chose a different path." Krenvax leaned forward. "How does it work?" The scientist in him couldn't help but ask. "Our greatest minds declared quantum manipulation at this scale impossible." "The impossible is just the undiscovered," Voss replied. "Humans specialize in the undiscovered." She paused, studying him. "The paradox doesn't manipulate matter directly. It manipulates probability. Your ships exist in all possible quantum states simultaneously, including the state of non-existence." A chill ran through Krenvax's carapace. "Can it be reversed? The ships we've lost, are they truly lost if they exist in quantum superposition?" Voss asked enigmatically. "Perhaps they exist in another reality. Perhaps they can be recalled. Perhaps not." Her expression hardened again. 10 minutes remain, Marshal." The command deck erupted into frantic activity as officers processed this information. Krenvax silenced them with a gesture. "If we withdraw," he said carefully, "what guarantee do we have that this technology won't be used against the collective in the future? What prevents humans from becoming the conquerors?" It was the question that truly troubled him. A weapon of this magnitude could reshape galactic power structures overnight. Voss seemed to consider this seriously. The paradox was designed for defense, not conquest. Humanity has no interest in ruling others or imposing our will across the stars. She leaned forward. "But make no mistake, we will defend ourselves. Earth has survived its own dark history, Marshal. We've faced extinction multiple times in our own hands. We learned from those near-death experiences." She touched a control, and the view screen split to show historical images from human history. World wars, environmental disasters, nuclear confrontations. "We nearly destroyed ourselves several times," she continued. "Each crisis forced us to evolve, to think differently, to find solutions where none seemed possible. The paradox is just one result of that evolutionary pressure." Krenvax watched the images with growing understanding. The collective had encountered many species, but few with humanity's contradictory nature, capable of both self-destruction and extraordinary innovation. 5 minutes, Marshal, his timekeeper announced quietly. Krenvax made his final decision. "I propose a compromise, Commander Voss. The Archean fleet will withdraw to the boundary of your solar system. We will remain there while diplomatic channels are established between Earth and the Collective. Voss raised an eyebrow. Diplomacy wasn't mentioned in your initial invasion plan. Circumstances have changed, Krenvax replied simply. 3 minutes, the timekeeper whispered. Voss studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Acceptable, with one condition. The Paradox will escort your flagship to the boundary. The rest of your fleet will precede us. It was both a gesture of good faith and a warning. Krenvax understood immediately. The human ship would remain close enough to act if treachery was attempted. Agreed, he said. Orders rippled through the Archean fleet. Massive warships pivoted in space, engines flaring as they began their withdrawal. The command deck fell silent as officers watched the unprecedented retreat of the mightiest armada in known space, all because of one human vessel. As the fleet moved toward the solar system boundary, Krenvax's second approached him. Marshal, the High Command will not understand this decision. Then they must evolve their understanding, Krenvax replied quietly. As we must. The Paradox took position alongside the Archean flagship, maintaining a respectful distance as they followed the retreating fleet. Krenvax studied the small vessel through his personal viewport. Its quantum field had diminished but remained visible, a subtle reminder of the power it contained. Commander Voss, he spoke into the open channel. Your single ship accomplished what no other civilization has managed in 8 centuries of collective expansion. This will change everything. That was the intention, Voss replied. Sometimes the rules need changing. The Collective doesn't adapt easily, Krenvax warned. There will be those who demand we return with greater numbers, with new countermeasures. And there will be more Paradox vessels by then, Voss countered. The technology is already being shared with our allies. This news sent another shock through Krenvax. The implications were staggering. Multiple worlds with quantum displacement technology could completely reshape galactic power structures. You've started something that cannot be undone, he said finally. We didn't start it, Marshal. The Collective did, with 37 conquered worlds. Voss's voice was firm but not unkind. Humanity simply changed how the story ends. As they reached the boundary of the solar system, the Paradox pulled away from the Archean flagship. The quantum field around it flared briefly. Whether as a final warning or a farewell, Krenvax couldn't tell. The Collective will contact Earth through proper diplomatic channels within 14 standard days, he stated formally. We have much to discuss. We'll be waiting, Voss replied. Peacefully, I hope. The communication ended. Krenvax watched as the Paradox turned gracefully and began its journey back to Earth, its hull gleaming in the distant sunlight. An officer approached cautiously. Course heading, Marshal. Krenvax didn't immediately respond. His mind was racing with the report he would have to deliver to the High Command, the explanations he would need to provide. The Collective had never encountered a species like humanity before, one that didn't just resist conquest, but fundamentally changed the nature of the conflict itself. Set course for Archean space, he said finally. Maximum speed. As the fleet entered faster than light travel, Krenvax stared at the view screen where Earth was now just a distant blue dot. The Collective had arrived expecting a conventional war against a conventional enemy. They had expected humanity to follow the established patterns of interstellar conflict. Instead, one ship had changed everything. The humans have given the galaxy something new, Marshal, his second commented quietly. Fear or hope? Krenvax considered the question. Perhaps both, he replied. And perhaps that was their most ingenious strategy of all. 6 months later, representatives from 17 previously conquered worlds met on Earth to sign the Quantum Accord, a new interstellar treaty backed by the shared technology of the Paradox. The Archean Collective, after centuries of uncontested expansion, found itself at the negotiating table rather than the battlefield. And it had all started with one ship, one human commander, and one civilization that refused to play by the established rules of war. The aliens had waited for a fleet. One human ship had changed everything.